Here we go. Happy Wednesday, everybody. This is the OVE podcast, Ohio versus everyone on the Torque, QFM 96. He's Sam Grooms. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you on the new YouTube channel. The response better than I thought. Thank you. New YouTube channel. Remember, subscribe, like, follow, share more content. We're still with the Menace Army, still with the Menace family. We saw Zach and Project Pat and Justine last night at Borgata with our winner Charles and his buddy Jeremy. We're still with Menace to Sports. We just have to do our own channel. It gets clogged up. We're not a college football show. We're an Ohio sports show. Zach is a college football show. So it's good. We've done a year of sleeping on their couch. Now we're out on our own. Appreciate you no matter what device or streaming service, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, Apple, iHeart, whatever it is. Appreciate it. Tell your friends. If you're hurt at work or in an accident, let attorney Robert Schuerger go to War for You at warforyou.com. Today's poll question we're going to get into. We did an interview with Gene Smith this morning. We did 20 minutes. It was fantastic. But in the interview, Gene just said you have to, it's so unpredictable of what's going to happen. You have to move on. So the poll question is, should Buckeye Nation move on from the Connor Stalions scandal? Meaning, like, don't even talk about it unless there's breaking news. Don't get upset over it. There's no. Have you ever heard the phrase, Sam? Don't get angry over things you can't control.
Absolutely.
That up, but like this is something you can't control. It's kind of like government, where you look at someone in government and they're stupid idiots. Like they're really some stupid. AOC said yesterday that Elon Musk is like the dumbest billionaire on the planet. He's like one of the smartest dudes on the planet. Your bartender dumb shouldn't call smart people stupid.
Yeah, you can.
And the NCAA is stupid.
You could probably throw a lot of labels at Elon Musk. Stupid is not one of them.
Agree. Stupid is not one of them. Almost like no, what's the word? No personality smart almost. I know he's autistic, correct?
Yes, and that's where I was going to say is I'm surprised they haven't thrown the R word at him yet.
Oh. Well, Trump is president, so people are using it again.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't use that word, I guess, but Trump signed a executive order. I would never say it, but I don't care what other people say.
By definition, I will say retarded when it fits. I will call my buddies retards when it fits. I will never call somebody with a learning disability an R word. I think there's a massive difference between those scenarios.
A slang term and then being derogatory with it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think, yeah, you stay away from that big time. But
yeah.
People, I also absolutely hate people that try to tell other people how to speak.
Yeah, we got a lot of stupid today, man. And I know you don't know, I put on the Greg Doyle and Mike Greenberg's producer in this whole Myles Garrett thing, but there is a whole lot of, anytime there's a player available for trade, you get a whole lot of speculation. And this Myles Garrett thing, I do have some more info we're going to get to on Myles Garrett in the second segment of the show. But boy, there are some really stupid made up trade proposals that are going on right now. And it's like, do you guys even believe this? Or are you just trying to get clickbait? Like, is journalism thrown out the window? When I don't even mean journalism, Sam, I mean, if I'm going to create a scenario, an example is when I mention, hey, what would be a good fit and a good trade for everybody is if Myles Garrett went to the Bears and you say, oh, they're not a Super Bowl contender, Torque, but you can't tell me no team on paper made more, improved the roster better than the Bears did last year. And it's a top 10 pick. Forget the whole Myles Garrett Super Bowl contender crap, because it's not about that. It's about guaranteed money. And Myles wants guaranteed money. Just like my buddy who covers the Browns texted me. He goes, it's the only way the Browns could keep him is that they gave him a guaranteed salary, guaranteed every penny of it. It's about getting out of Cleveland. They've been talking about this behind the scenes, and he wants to get, does he want to win? Of course, but he wants to get paid. So everybody goes, oh, he's going to go to the Commanders. He's going to Philadelphia. No, he's going to go to one, whoever gives the best offer, and then two, whoever pays him the most guaranteed money. Because the deal is going to be made when they make the trade. the agent and the team are going to redo his deal. And if the Browns happen to be that team and blow Myles Garrett away, guess what? Myles Garrett's going to be happy and stay in Cleveland. But now you get a lot of stupid trade scenarios going around right now. At least mine is intelligent.
Is Myles is making like $20 million a year, correct? Is that right?
But I believe there's no guaranteed money left on the deal. And when players get to that point, they want the guaranteed money.
So I'm guessing how does that 20 compare? So, okay, here we go. I finally found it. So top paid defensive end is Nick Bosa making 34. Chris Jones, defensive tackle, making just under 32. So TJ Watt making a little over 28 million. So based upon that, Myles Garrett and the production you get out of him is grossly underpaid. So if the Browns do truly want to keep them, which I think they probably genuinely want to, I don't know why they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Do they even have the capability to pay the man what he's worth? That's the question.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you stretch it and do the voidable years, right, and start tacking on years that don't count where you just swallow a bunch of salary, yeah, you can make anything happen. I mean, the Saints have been in salary cap hell for like 10 years, and then they keep stretching out and do voidable years. I mean, yeah, you can if you want to. I mean, look at Joe Burrow's deal. That's the first voidable year deal the Bengals have done, and it's only for like $8 million where it's a fake year tacked on. So, yeah, you could do fake years on contracts where you give guys guaranteed money, and then you'll be stuck with kind of like a poison pill where you're paying a guy $10 million, $10 million, $10 million. He's not on your team. A lot of teams do that, where it's like, all right, we're going to give you a huge deal, and just the end of the contract, like a 7-year deal, like the Kirk Cousins deal. The Kirk Cousins deal, everybody look, it's a 4-year, 130, whatever it is. No, when you look at it, it's a 2-year, $90 million deal. And the Falcons on the third year are going to swallow like some of them like 30 million or 28 million. And then the fourth year, they swallow more money. So the Falcons basically signed him to a 2-year deal. Everybody thought it was a 4-year deal, but the rest is like voidable years. They're going to cut them. And it really was a 2-year, $90 million deal. A great tool, folks, is overthecap.com. When you look at a deal, it'll tell you how to rework deals, what deals really mean, the guaranteed money. The NFL GMs have found a great way to, take a salary cap system. Unlike the NHL, remember we talked to Porty, Sam, and Porty goes, no, the NHL has like a legit, true salary cap. When you sign that deal, that is the deal and what it's worth. The NFL, it's all fake. All fake.
Yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors. And you've seen in the past, the NHL teams have tried to get real creative with particular contract construction. And basically the NHL will come out and say, yeah, you can't do that. And they have to go back and rework the deal to the point where they've actually had players that were going to stay in the NHL go to the KHL, for example.
Yeah. The only thing that they do in the NHL is you trade contracts. Like Chris Pronger was a member of the Phoenix Coyotes, never played, obviously, and they wanted salary cap relief. And I believe Pavel Datsyuk was the same thing. Datsyuk was hurt, still had years on that deal. Detroit traded him to Phoenix for salary cap relief, and then I think they traded a second-round pick. So teams do take contracts, and they'll take – I think we did it with the Horton, wasn't it?
Yep, Nathan Horton.
Yeah, I think we've done it in the past. Teams. So that's the one thing teams will do in the NHL is they will, all right, we'll give you a first-round pick or a second-round pick, and then you take this injured player's salary.
On the contract, yeah.
And you take on the contract.
Yeah, there was Nathan Horton comes to mind. He had the back issue. He did play for a little bit and then wasn't able to. And was it Davison was a guy that we took on, and I don't think that he ever ended up playing. I know the NHL and the NBA are big leagues in that kind where, like you said, will they trade contracts for draft picks or give salary cap relief because of the nature of the structure of the salary cap in the league. I don't know that you've really seen baseball do it that much because they don't have any kind of salary cap structure at all. And then the NFL, it's just so loosey-goosey. And I think the big difference probably between the NFL and the other three leagues is the contracts largely, with a couple of exceptions in the NFL, are not fully guaranteed, whereas every other league they are.
Do you believe, we're like a week away from spring training? I saw an interview with the owner of the Baltimore Orioles where he said that he thinks the salary cap's coming to baseball because it's getting too far out of hand now, where before teams like the Yankees were reluctant to do a salary cap because they could outspend, right? And it appears that the Dodgers are just going bonkers. Have you seen like the deferred contracts with the Dodgers? Yeah. It is freaking insane, right?
You may tell you why that won't happen, though.
You don't think there'll be a salary cap?
No. Major League Baseball Players Union is probably the most powerful union in the world.
Agree.
They won't allow it. The players will say no.
Yeah, I agree. The baseball, but he said, like, I think we're going to get to a salary cap at some point.
It needs it.
It's only because, Sam, the guys who are spending, like the Steinbrenners came out and said, well, we can't, and the Steinbrenners have like horse race, horses and the team. And they have big money contracts locally, but the Yankees aren't in a position where they can outspend everybody like they used to. So now, like, you see the Yankees going, well, we're open for a salary cap. The only thing, Sam, where I disagree, I agree with you, right? The union is so powerful. You're right. The Major League Baseball then would have to dig in for 2 years of not playing if they wanted a salary cap. Like, honest to God, it would be 2 years of no playing whatsoever. And then I think the Players Association would just have such a high cap that it would be worth their while. Okay, we'll do a cap, but it's going to be at like $300 million a team. And the floor, and then they would raise the floor so you couldn't do a Florida Marlins type thing.
Right.
Or Cleveland Indians.
Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah.
I've seen for years, or I've said for years that if Major League Baseball truly wanted to have a renaissance and a comeback to where you don't have the Dodgers, the Chicago market, the New York market, these big market teams in basically the postseason every season, create a model like the NFL does where you have the salary cap, where you have a floor, like you said, and I don't want luxury tax if you go over. I want teams to basically have to spend a certain amount of money. I want teams to have a limit, and this deferral shit that LA's doing, you can't work around it. I want hard floor, hard ceiling, and I want a true revenue share amongst the entire league like the NFL currently does. You will start to see parity. And guess what, too? If you've got an owner that consistently won't spend money, there needs to be some kind of mechanism in place to where, guess what, buddy? You're not spending enough. You're not competitive enough for this league. You're gone. And I think you would see true parity in the league, and you would start to see some of these smaller market teams be able to hang with the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Anaheims, like I said, the bigger markets. So I'm here for it. I think it would fix a lot of what's going on in the league. However, like I said, I know it's not going to happen because of the players union.
Baseball is the only sport, and this is how you win in baseball, is you got to build that minor league system. You have players for 6 years. And when you see the opening, you got to jump through it. Like the Kansas City Royals when they won their World Series 10, 15 years ago. They built the system. They kept their guys. They re-signed a couple. Now, they kept the wrong after they won. They kept the catcher, Perez. They kept the catcher. They paid him the money, and they screwed that up. But the Royals saw their opportunity, and then they went for it. You have to know when your window is open, and then you got to go all in. You're like waiting. Then you got to go in. The Reds did it. Unfortunately, when the Reds did it was the COVID year. And that screwed them up. But the Reds did go for it.
Oh, they had a squad that year.
And they did.
And unfortunately, and it's a prime example of you're a small market team. You go out, spend all this money. COVID happens, so you're not bringing as much revenue in because you're not getting anybody going through the turnstiles, and eventually you have to sell off immediately before you can get the plane off the ground the next year again. So that's the problem with baseball right now is the big market teams, because they are able to sell their rights to their games and able to put more butts in seats and charge more for tickets and concessions, whereas small market teams don't have that luxury. Like the Yankees and the Dodgers can miss on a couple giant contracts. Whereas if the Reds, for example, miss, or the Guardians/Indians miss on a big contract, it could set them back 5 years.
Yep, devastating. Because then their ownership looks like, we went all in. We listened to a stupid GM. We spent our money. Or we're going to go back to our way of doing things, which is cheap. Absolutely. Yeah. It's the only sport where there's really such a strategic, and two, when you think about it, it's the one sport too where prospects, to me, I would trade every prospect I had for a known talent. How many prospects when you do like a top 10 list or Baseball America's top 100, how many of those guys truly become stars? I would trade prospects every day for a known commodity.
I would love to see I would love to see the fail rate of Major League Baseball draft #1 overall pick. Like, how many guys actually have sustained careers in the league? Like,
not a lot.
I mean, I can think of 2 guys right now, 3 guys. Was Trout a #1 overall?
I don't know. Joe Mauer was.
Yeah, Joe Mauer, good career. I got a Joe Mauer story for you.
He's a Hall of Famer, by the way, I think.
Strasburg. Right? Yeah, he was this past year. Strasburg was the #1 overall. Bryce was the number 1 overall. But like, you hear a lot about these guys.
Was Michael Bush of the Cubs their first third base? Was he and he's just now, I think he's like 26, 27. I thought Michael Bush was a first overall pick, and the reason why the Dodgers got rid of him was because they were waiting forever for him.
Okay. I've got some pulled up here. I've got at least back to, let's go. All right. So last year, Travis Bazzana was #1 overall pick by the Guardians. The year before, Paul Skeens by the Pirates, obviously success.
Oh, no, he was a first-round pick. I'm sorry. He was a first-round pick, so he wasn't. Okay.
Jackson Holiday is playing with the big squad.
He is, but he hasn't shown it yet.
But basically, until Dansby Swanson in 2015, who played at Vanderbilt, between Jackson Holiday in 2022 and Dansby Swanson in 2015, I don't recognize a single one of these names.
Give me some of the guys.
Spencer Torkelson.
Yeah, first baseman, Tigers, major disappointment.
Yeah, is he just a relative of you, by the way?
Not a Torkelson. I'm Torgerson. But yeah, he was a guy. I think he played for Arizona State, can't miss guy, and has really not done anything with
Adley Rushman.
Never heard of him.
Casey Mize,
pitcher, left-hander, I believe. Detroit Tigers, another one. The
Tigers, he's a righty. Went to Auburn. Right.
Royce Lewis, Twins.
Twins, shortstop, high schooler.
Yep.
And then Mickey Maniac. I'm guessing that's how you say his last name. But I mean, think about that. You're the #1 overall draft pick in a league that has probably 300-400 guys get drafted every year, and your fail rate is still that high. That's pretty crazy.
It is super nuts. Yeah, Royce Lewis actually hasn't been bad. It's just he hasn't been healthy.
By the way, I figured we bury in the lead here the fact that we haven't even talked about the food last night at Borgata.
How good is that, huh?
I'll tell you what, and I knew it was going to happen when I ate it. That stuffed pepper is legit. It's up there with the best I've ever had, but it is fighting back right now.
Is it? Yeah. Oh, I avoided it.
The last pepper I had was a little bit spicy, and so is some other bodily functions today.
Dude, it's Borgata. The stuffed pepper's best in the city.
I'm going to have to go back and get some pizza. I didn't have any of the pizza last night.
Yeah, best in the city. And we're going out. We had some tequila, some shots with Charles. We had a good time. And then we're going out Saturday to the Blue Jacket game. That's going to be a good time.
By the way, shout out Charles. Great guy. His buddy was Jeremy was his name, right?
Jeremy was his buddy.
Great dudes. Yep. I got an email. I'm sure you did too. I got an email from Charles last night before I even got home thanking us. So, Charles, shout out, buddy. Stand-up guy. We appreciate you.
Yeah, hopefully you had a good time.
It's crazy, too. I can't remember the owner's name. What was his name?
Ed.
Great guy. And it's crazy that he said he's doing keto. He's an Italian man cooking Italian food doing keto.
Stuff's like 100 pounds.
Yeah, that's what he said, 102.
I think the Menace to Sports guys are going to do some shows there.
I know Zach was talking about it a little bit on a show. He said it was absolute torture last night when he's on this diet and he can't eat any of it.
Awaken 180, right?
Yep.
I told him he needs to get you on that.
I'm going. I need to do something. I think me and the wife are going to make some changes here because I think we're both.
Your wife is attractive and skinny, unlike you.
Absolutely, but she doesn't feel that way sometimes. So hey, man, we're gonna set a goal and do it as a family.
Yeah, I could tell you. Like, does your wife watch this podcast?
Not really. I think she tunes in and out. She told me one time just to see where I'm doing the podcast from.
Okay. She does not need it. You, Sam, eat a salad.
I completely agree.
Yes. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I say that to myself too. I look at myself in the mirror and go, dude, eat something green.
Yeah, I am overweight. I would love to get down to, I think I left college at about 220, 225. I'd love to get back down to about 230.
Well, you're a tall dude too. Let's be honest. What are you, 6'5"?
I wish 6'3".
6'3", 6'3", 6'5". In the NBA, you'd be 6'5". They would
The NBA would be too slow.
When we come back, not necessarily. There's always room for the slow white guy on every NBA team. When we come back, new names emerge in the Buckeye offense and defensive coordinator list. Finally, they're putting some strategy behind this. Ohio State, I applaud you for this. Even if it's not true, you're finally using strategy. We'll talk about that. And then Gene Smith, in an interview with the Torg and Elliott show this morning, that's me, Torg, said that Buckeye Nation needs to move on from the Connor Stalions scandal. Do you agree? We're back in 60 seconds on the OVE podcast.
We go to war for you.
At Schuerger Trial Attorneys, we don't back down. Accident? Call us today at 877-WAR-FOR-YOU or visit warforyou.com for a free consultation. Know your rights because results matter. That's 877-WAR-FOR-YOU. 877-WAR-FOR-YOU or visit warforyou.com.
War for you, warforyou.com.
Dan Robb Management has over 40 years experience in all aspects of payroll, processing checks, tax filing, W-2 and 1099 preparation. First-time customers get 50% off their first 3 months processing fees. Give them a call now, 614-297-1158 or denrobmanagement.com. OVE podcast on the Torque, QFM 96 mornings. Sam Grooms, appreciate you. Remember, subscribe, like, follow, share, spread the word. Follow us on social media. I have stepped up the X game on the OVE podcast and the Facebook game. I actually posted some content. I have a program now where I can just take content, copy it on my social media. So that's what I'm using for the OVE podcast page. Some interesting stuff on the Buckeye offensive coordinator that some of the listeners made some really good opinions on, some good points I want to get to a little bit later on. Kevin made a really good point on X that I want to get to about Brian Hartline and this offensive coordinator job. They're going to talk a little bit. Today's poll question, though, Sam, Gene Smith went on the Torganelli show. Great 20 minutes of interviews with Gene Smith. And we talked about college football, the structure, who should be in charge. Are they going to do any changes to the playoff format, which he's, by the way, said, not this year. There'll be no changes to the format this year. Then he said, next year, you will see the changes. They won't change. It's too hard to change. Everybody's got to agree. He goes, you won't see any changes, but you're going to see a lot when the Big Ten and the SEC take over.
You mean they can't make any changes to how the seeding takes place? And
everybody's got to agree. All the conferences have to agree.
Do they though?
Yes, they do. It's written up. They agreed to this format. Everybody's got to agree to it. And then it's starting after this season, the Big Ten and the SEC control the playoffs. So that's why you're going to see it the same. Because why would the ACC and the Big 12, Sam, agree to a different structure when they haven't made in the shade right now? Like, why would they say, no, we don't like this, let's change the structure? It worked out for them.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize that they had that put in the contract that everybody has to agree on it.
Yes, this next upcoming year, if there's any changes, everybody has to agree. But then after that, it's Big Ten and SEC.
Gotcha.
That's when you're going to see the changes on the structure. But Gene Smith made something interesting, because I brought up that we've had Ross Bjork on the morning show, and Ross was, when he was on with us, was very outspoken of, let me paraphrase here, Michigan's cheating scumbags. They insulted the game of college football. They stained the game of college football. We have to have integrity in college football, and we cannot let schools get away with what they did. Ross Bjork, it was a great interview when we had him on a couple months ago, and he was very outspoken and said, listen, you can't do this. It's you don't have a sport. There's got to be some integrity in this. And he said it was so blatant that you just cannot allow it. Now, Gene Smith came on, and I mentioned, like, Ross was on the show, And Ross was adamant that something had to be done. And Gene's point of view is follow what's going on, everybody. Michigan is setting this up for litigation. That if Michigan doesn't like the ruling, he goes, I fully expect the NCAA to give a ruling that Michigan is not going to like, that Michigan's not going to accept. But the way the current system is now, all Michigan's going to do is more litigation, more courts. They are going to, and the thing is and he said it's hard for Ward Manuel in Michigan to know the truth when the people involved, Connor Stalions isn't talking. Jim Harbaugh's not talking. Jesse Minter's not talking. Sharon Moore is playing Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing. No one's talking. So from Michigan's point of view, if no one's going to talk to us or they're telling us lies, we have to believe the lies because that's all the information have. Even if it makes sense of like, this seems fishy. I don't necessarily buy these stories, but it's the only story I have. So from the Michigan standpoint, they're going to get nailed. And then it's just going to be litigation. And Gene Smith says for the sake of this university, for Ohio State, Buckeye Nation needs to move on for this because it is what it is. And Michigan's not going to like it. We've won a natty. Time to turn the page and go forward with this whole thing because it could stretch out for another 2 years. And I kind of tend to agree only because of this reason, Sam. I've moved on because we won a natty. If we didn't win a natty, my blood would be boiling. But winning a natty, to me, it's like you won a fake natty. We won the real, beat 4 teams. You had to cheat to get everything that you accomplished. It wasn't real. There was nothing real about it. You were like the girl that had balloons in her bra and they took a pin and then popped the balloons and you have an A cup. There's nothing about Michigan's championship that's real. That's fact. Sam, look at, I'll put this on the screen. If you're watching at home, this is not opinion. This is fact. Michigan under Harbaugh, before and after Connor Stalions. Do you guys actually believe that Connor Stalions like cracked the code and he's the only guy who's figured out signals? Schools have these guys like crazy. They cheated and it benefited them for a national title. But we have a legit title. And the only thing Michigan fan can say is, oh, well, you didn't beat us. Okay, we didn't. But we still won a legit championship. You did not. So, right, isn't it just time to move on for the Connor Stalions stuff and who cares?
That is the limpest dick energy philosophy, approach, whatever you want to call it, that I've ever heard come out of Gene Smith's mouth. But based upon what I know about him and seeing how he's handled things in the past, it's very on brand for him. You do not let something like this go unpunished solely because you know, or the threat is there that Michigan.
He's not saying it's not going unpunished. He's saying you
got. No, let me finish. You don't deliver justice for something you knew that took place solely because you know they're going to fight it and it's going to be tied up in court. Michigan has had an opportunity. Harbaugh has had an opportunity. Connor Stalions has had an opportunity to come in and set the record straight and say what exactly happened, and they have chosen not to speak. If the NCAA has enough information to put it on the table and say, hey, here is what happened, here's the violations that you guys committed, and here's the punishment for that, Michigan has an opportunity to fight it, and the floor is Jim Harbaugh and Connor Stalions. Let's see if anything they have to say counteracts any of the evidence that the NCAA has. But going and saying you need to forget about this and you need to forget about justice for harms that were committed by Michigan to the football community, to the NCAA, solely because they're going to try to tie it up in court is the biggest bitch shit I've ever heard in my life.
That's not what he
like
said.
I said, very much on brand.
That's not what he said, though. He said that as a fan, you cannot spend your time worrying about when the punishment's going to happen because the NCAA is going to give him punishment and Michigan's going to fight it. And all he's saying is don't concern yourself with it from the standpoint of Michigan's going to litigate the shit out of this. So why focus on something that's going to be dragged out in the courts for 2 years instead of moving on? Like, instead of being bitter about because what's going to happen is the NCAA is going to nail Michigan. And Michigan is going to continue to litigate. And what Gene is basically saying that, not that they don't deserve to get punishment, he's just saying don't focus on it and make it something that, man, I want those guys to get nailed. Man, I want them to get nailed when they are going to get nailed. But Michigan is just going to do the litigation thing because Michigan can't accept it. So this is going to be something that we're not going to get a final ruling on for years because Michigan is heading down the road of we're going to kick the can on down the road because we can. And there's people stupid enough out there who actually believe we didn't do anything. So they're going to litigate the shit out of this. That's what they're going to do. They're going to litigate the shit out of this because they know they're guilty as hell. But that's the system, and that's what. And look at Tennessee. I know it's a different punishment, but what did Tennessee, Sam, do when they had their second major violation in 2023? Litigated the shit out of it. That's what
and won. But again, like I said, that's a little bit different scenario. I guess my point in all of this: 133 college Division I college football programs and fans across the country deserve a pound of flesh. If the NCAA is going to shirk their responsibilities in enforcing the rules that they have on the books that largely everybody else abides by, we don't need the NCAA anymore. I mean, I think that's abundantly clear now. So it's time for the NCAA to step up and say, listen, you guys want to fight it, but you've got an opportunity to tell us where we're wrong. We're going to put it on the table, and you know what? We're going to enforce these rules, and we're going to punish your ass, and we'll fight you as long as we need to.
I think they're going to. I think they're forced. I almost think they're forced to, right? When everybody's coming out. But when I talked to Gene about, like, at what point do we get rid of the NCAA? He claims that the conferences right now and the University of Presidents are working on removing the NCAA from any type of governing body, and that shortly he thinks that there's going to be some type of commissioner or commission, or because he agrees with Ryan Day that when Ryan Day came out on the Joel Klatt podcast this week and said, where's the enforcement? We have no enforcement in college football. Gene thinks it's going to be even higher, that the NCAA is probably going to go away from the majority of sports. But Gene thinks that they are going to work on having someone in charge where there is some enforcement in college sports, in college football. They have to.
Yeah.
You cannot continue this current system.
I would say that board of governors or directors, whatever you want to call it, are probably going to have a much broader scope of laws or rules in place to which they can enforce compared to what the NCAA is right now. But again, this falls under the purview. This isn't the NIL stuff. This isn't players making money off name, image, likeness, or shit getting paid to play somewhere.
Yeah.
This is something that Michigan has agreed to abide by just by being an institution, a part of the NCAA. If the NCAA can't enforce this rule and punish an institution, a member institution, for violating a rule that everybody else agrees to and abides by, you're feckless and you're not needed anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, can the NCAA, I mean, if they can't enforce a rule like this, can the NCAA enforce guys having an adequate grade point average and being eligible to play?
Yeah, if they can't enforce this, then what stops anyone else from doing this?
And then maybe
just denying it.
Maybe my hatred for Gene Smith is kind of, pulling the wool over my eyes or making me kind of see through his point. And I don't necessarily disagree. Like, again, I don't want the first thought when you wake up in the morning and the last thought before you fall asleep to be Michigan cheated. Michigan needs to get away with this. When is this going to happen? But again, if we just sit here and idly and let this happen and let this go unpunished, that's chicken shit in my mind. And it doesn't need to encompass your everyday and your thoughts. But yeah, like, don't get me wrong, winning the national championship was phenomenal, but I want a pound of flesh because these assholes cheated and benefited from it and have yet to be punished for it.
Oh, I think you're going to get it. The problem is when we get that ruling, you're going to see with but here's more lawsuits. Because you're going to get a ruling.
You're right.
You're going to get a ruling in a couple weeks, Sam, and it's going to be, you're going to say, we're going to debate the ruling, right? Let's say hypothetically for this conversation, the NCAA comes out and said, you cheated 52 games. We're going to take 2021 away. We're going to take 2022 away. We're going to take 6 games of 2023. And there's going to be an asterisk around your national title. Like, we can't take it away, but your games don't count for part of that 2-year postseason ban, blah, 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 right? And you go, okay, all right, that's satisfactory. Those games don't, I mean, you remove games from Kentucky. So I know people say, well, they don't like removing games. Well, they just did it Kentucky a couple years ago for their football team. So let's say it's a satisfactory. We're like, all right, they cheated. NCAA came out. Michigan lost. This is great. Then Michigan says, well, hold on. We don't agree. More litigation. So there could be punishment. The NCAA can do whatever they want. They can erase those wins, right?
I think we're also maybe.
But I think Michigan can always pull the litigation card.
I also think that maybe we're discounting the quality and amount of evidence that the NCAA has. Obviously, we don't know that yet. But Michigan said they were going to fight it at the end of the 2023 season. And then when the NCAA, or I guess it was the Big Ten in that instance,
the Harbaugh stuff, yeah,
showed the information they had, they didn't say a peep. They said, okay, we'll take that. I mean, we're assuming that the NCAA is not going to come throw a bunch of cardboard boxes full of information and evidence on the table and say, listen, you guys can sift through this, but this is pretty open and shut. You guys can fight it if you want, but you're going to lose. I mean,
yeah, maybe maybe they can't fight. The evidence will be so overwhelming that Michigan can't fight it. Do you know what
Michigan
I mean?
Right now is the bully walking around the recess, outside amongst the jungle gyms with his chest pumped out. But the NCAA is about to be the kid that's going to pop him in the nose the next time the bully comes along and tries to bully him. Again, I still think the NCAA doesn't levy these accusations, 6 level 1 violations, if they don't have the goods. And you can only fight the evidence so much.
I would tend to agree with you that they're not going to charge teams unless they know they're guilty.
And again, like I said, if Jesse Minter, if Connor Stalions, if Jim Harbaugh want to come in and probably do a deposition under oath, and they want to, answer any of the questions or basically say that some of the evidence was not true, they have their opportunity. But you and I both know that's not going to happen.
The only person who believes that Michigan didn't do it is the low IQ Michigan fan, because they don't want to believe it's like your spouse is cheating on you and they say you didn't do it. I didn't do it, but everybody knows they did. And you're the only one that is, you know what I mean? You're the only one, everybody knows your wife cheated on you, and your wife says, well, I never cheated on you. And you're the only one who believes it because you want to believe it.
Yeah. Again, I have a hard time believing that the NCAA is going to spend this much time, this much in resources on this, if they don't know that they've got an ace up their sleeve, if they know they don't have the goods on these guys. So, yeah, again, Michigan's saying everything they're saying right now. And, if I were in their position, I'd probably be trying to pump out some false bravado as well. But I would guarantee you in the back of their mind, they're terrified to a degree, because they know the NCAA's got the goods, and this is something they still can rule over.
By the way, we can go on X. Mike says, yes, it's in the past, time will tell. Tim, yes, but it'll come back every November. Kelly chimes in, would they, if roles were reversed? Would Michigan move on if roles were reversed? No, they would.
Not a chance.
James chimes in, yes, it doesn't matter at this point. Nothing that happens to him from them from here on out will positively affect us other than shit talking.
And I vehemently disagree with that, because if this goes unpunished, you think it's going to stop with Michigan?
Here's Daryl. It's out of our hands. It's up to the NCAA.
And I do agree with that. This is something you and I have no control over. And like I said, it shouldn't, get in the way with us in our day-to-day and living our life. But again, to accept the fact that this is over and done with, and that they don't deserve any kind of retribution for what they did and the rules they violated, I think is naive at worst.
Harry says, I won't move on till the NCAA renders its decision, and then I move on after that. CJ Rhodes chimes in on X, I probably never will move on. That's some honesty there, dude.
I mean, think about what Michigan would be.
I will always be pissed off.
Do we legitimately think that Michigan would have beaten Ohio State now 4 years running had they not done this?
No.
I mean, that's part of it too.
And it helped them with recruiting too. Remember, those wins I can show it again on the screen. Those wins helped Michigan recruit. Look you go 69-24 before Connor Stalions, right?
Yep.
Then 21-1 when you get Connor Stalions joining your program. That doesn't help you recruit. 21-1 doesn't help you recruit as a football program. Hey, we're 21-1. We beat Ohio State 2 years in a row. We won a national title. We've won the Big Ten 3 years. That absolutely helps in recruiting.
Absolutely. Again, if what Michigan was doing at the time did not benefit them in any way on the field with results, then why did they do it? I still haven't had anybody that's defending Michigan be able to answer that question.
They did it because their program was free falling. And they were stuck in they brought in Rich Rod, they brought in Fat Brady Hoke, and nothing was changing the direction of the program, and they were floundering. They brought in Jim Harbaugh to help bring relevance back to the program, and even Jim was getting owned by Urban Meyer. Then they found this guy, Rain Man, came in, who had this elaborate scam, and they knew about it, and they used this guy, a simpleton. They used like Russell Crowe, beautiful mind, not all there upstairs, Rain Man, and they used this guy. And I'm sure Jim Harbaugh caught wind of this guy. If you believe the Netflix special, they just found him on campus. Come on now. Obviously, he started an elaborate scheme, and they were in desperate. Remember, Jim Harbaugh, folks, was interviewing with NFL teams, Denver, Minnesota. He had to take a pay cut. His staff had to take a pay cut. Desperate times brings desperate measures, and they were at the bottom of the barrel for this staff to survive. And they decided, hey, we got this guy. Let's cheat. No one's going to find out. We're going to keep rolling with this. And it worked for a very long time. And then they became relevant again. Why did they become relevant again? Because they cheated. Because you're right, Sam. If they didn't have Connor Stalions, Harbaugh would have been fired by now. Right? Harbaugh would have been fired 2 years ago. If they didn't have
does Harbaugh get a job in the NFL? If he was losing 4 games a year?
Yeah, I think
he does.
Yeah, I do, because remember, before Connor Stalions, he's still interviewing with teams. He's just runner-up. He's runner-up in Denver. He's runner-up in Minnesota. You're right, though, that it's funny how he struck out in Denver and Minnesota. He struck out to Sean Payton. I get that. But he struck out in Minnesota to Kevin O'Connell, who was the quarterback coach and not even the play caller with the Rams. So that tells you something. And then he finally gets a job after he wins a national title, replacing the most idiotic, low IQ coach, Brandon Staley, in NFL history. So, yeah, I think you're onto something there. Where does Jim Harbaugh, if they don't cheat and win, continue to strike out for jobs? Obviously, he's on the radar for NFL jobs, or he wouldn't be like the runner-up in Denver and Minnesota. So even when he was losing, he was still on the NFL radar. So maybe he would still get a job, but maybe it wouldn't have been the Chiefs' job. Maybe it would have been like the Bears' job, or the Bears' job a couple years ago, or not because the Chargers' job. Say this: the Chargers were a ready-made team that was ready to win. They just needed a new head coach and get rid of that idiot. Hey, it's 4th down and 10 at my own 25. Let's go for it on 4th down. That's the shit he was doing. And I'm not exaggerating. 4th and 7 at my own 33. Let's go for it. Anyone could come in and improve that team. They had the talent. So would Harbaugh get that? I think he would get a job by now. But you're right, though. He got a good job and got paid. What's he making? $16 million a year? He'd get a job, but he'd making like 8.
Yeah,
I think he doubled his salary.
I don't think he catapults. I don't think he. Again, they made him cut half his salary at Michigan, right? And then all of a sudden they start winning. They slay the dragon, beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten, get into the playoff. Like, Michigan was about to kick his ass to the curb. I just don't see him falling upward from 7-5, 8-4 every season.
And you know who really benefited is Mike McDonald, the head coach of the Seahawks. They knew the signals. He got a job because of his defense, but he knew the offensive play calling. Nothing that Mike McDonald has accomplished is real.
We talk about the ripple effect or the trickle down of certain events with the Cleveland Browns. The scandal with Michigan and Jim Harbaugh's career would be an interesting case study if you could go back and say, well, if this didn't happen, what happens? Where is the guy? Because I think in him being able to, quote unquote, turn it around at Michigan with what they did was what catapulted him back to the NFL. His ass was going to be fired by Michigan had he not gone to this, taken it to this level to try to right the ship, to try to win. And I just don't. Everyone wants to talk about Harbaugh. He's this, he's that. He's a great coach. He's a quarterback motor. I don't see it, but that's just me.
I think he's a decent to good, better. I would say when it comes to NFL coaching, he is top 25%. Because there's a lot of guys who shouldn't be coaching in the NFL. So I think, he's one of the top pro coaches. When it comes to college, though, I don't even think he was good. I think he was an average college football coach. Proof is in the pudding. They were an average football team.
Didn't recruit or couldn't recruit, didn't develop until 2021, 22, 23. Like all of these accolades that now these titles that he has earned as a coach, he received or he got because of the cheating scandal.
Yeah.
And I'll never be convinced otherwise.
When we come back, we're back in 60 seconds. Buckeyes are finally getting it on the OC and DC front. Finally getting it. Jim Knowles has his first press conference. And idiot people in the media have bizarre trade proposals for where they think like, you ever heard the who says no stuff where you throw out a trade that's who says no? Mm-hmm. There are some ridiculous ones out there. We're back in 60 seconds on the OVE podcast. Hey, it's Torque for Custom Air. You know, when it comes to my HVAC system, I don't trust just anyone. I trust Custom Air. These guys are fast, reliable, and they know their stuff. Fall's just around the corner, and now's the perfect time to make sure your HVAC equipment is running at its best. Don't wait until it's too late. Get ahead of the game. I wouldn't trust anyone else with my home, and neither should you. Visit them on the web at customairco.com and keep your home comfortable all season long. Custom solutions, custom comfort, Custom Air. Thinking of buying or selling a home? Give Lauren Torgerson a call with Next Home Experience. Lauren has been servicing the Columbus metropolitan area for 10 years. So whether you're a first-time home buyer, considering building, want to upsize or downsize, Lauren can help you with all your real estate needs. Get a free market analysis for your area and get started working on making tomorrow's dreams happen today. Call or text Lauren at 614-296-3952, 614-296-3952, or email at torgersonlauren@gmail.com. Thanks for watching the OVE podcast. Appreciate you. New YouTube channel. Remember, subscribe, like, follow, share. Appreciate you. Do that on all streaming services. I think Ohio State, Sam, is finally getting it. On 3 reporting that the Buckeyes looking at Chris Hampton, the defensive back and co-defensive coordinator of Oregon, and also looking at offensive coordinator Will Stein for the offensive coordinator job. So looking at the two coaches from the Oregon Ducks. Finally, you get it. Penn State got it. They found an opening and took Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles, a South Philly guy, grew up a Penn State guy. We're going to make Jim Knowles the highest paid defensive coordinator, even though defense wasn't a problem. But they had an opening, paid him more than anyone. Penn State knows they can't out-recruit Ohio State. They never will. But we have an opportunity to take their defensive coordinator we just took from our enemy, our top rival, the team we can't beat. We injured them from the standpoint of we took away their top defensive coach. Penn State got it. Let's take away our number one rival on the field, by the way, number one rival's defensive coordinator. And what has Oregon tried to do the last 2 years? They have tried to pluck the top players from Ohio State by offering them more money in the transfer portal to take away your top dogs, to offer you money. Ohio State, I don't even care if you hire these guys. I know Buckeye Scoop is still saying it's Brian Hartline. I have not heard that anywhere else. But kudos Because who is Ohio State's main rival in the Big Ten, Sam? It's Oregon.
Mhm.
So what do? You damage them. Maybe you can't outpay Oregon and Nike money, but Ohio State's program is still regarded better than Oregon's. So Will Stein, I don't have a problem with Oregon's offense. Offense was pretty good.
Well, it's a little fighting fire with fire, too. You've seen Oregon trying to tamper with your current players, trying to get them to come to Oregon. And keep in mind, too, where did Coach Carlos Loughlin come from, if you remember correctly?
Yep, took the same job with us that he had in
Came from Oregon. So
we're a better
coaching job. If they are able, absolutely. If they're able to poach the OC from Oregon, there's at least going to be a little bit of continuity in that room. I know the OC over there at Oregon has had some success with quarterbacks in the past. He helped coach Bo Nix last year. And also his offense at UTSA was top 10 nationally. So the guy obviously knows what he's doing. I like it, man. This is kind of if you're going to screw with us, we're going to screw with you. You know, you come take a player, try to take a player. We're going to come take your coaching staff.
Yeah. And it hurts Oregon. It hurts their guy because Dan Lanning is a defensive coach. And then you take the guy who's running your offense. And then what do you do now? Oregon is scrambling. One of your top competitors in the Big Ten, now they're scrambling to fill a need with their offense.
All right.
Listen, I don't know who's going to get the job. It's something we're going to talk about once they hire somebody. I mean, I saw an article again today about Joe Moorhead, the Akron coach, or like how, he would be so good. He's in the running. He'd be one of the better guys to get. I don't know
that anybody from Akron or having any kind of affiliation to Akron football would be a good get.
Where was Joe Moorhead before that, though? Was he at like Mississippi State?
It looks like it. So let's see. I
just like that they're not, maybe it is Brian Hartline. I just like they're doing their due diligence, taking their time, and not just like, we need an offensive coordinator. Chip Kelly just left. Let's get on it right away.
Last three programs before coming to Akron was Oregon OC quarterback coach, Mississippi State, and then Penn State OC quarterback coach.
Gotcha.
But all for year stints.
Because he kept getting better jobs.
Yeah. Good for him.
Yeah. Jim Knowles talked to the media for the first time, mentioned Penn State is where he wanted to be. Listen, is it? I think it's a bigger loss than we think. But with the new defense, we could – if Jim Knowles is your defensive coordinator this year, right, with the losses that Ohio State had defensively, Sam, it's kind of – Kevin brought up a good point. I posted a article on – and I try to tag you on X on the OVE podcast page. And the article is there another choice than Brian Hartline? And Kevin brought up a great point. He says, Hartline's walking into a bad situation if he's the new offensive coordinator. He's inheriting new offensive coaches and a new quarterback that's unproven. If Julian Sain doesn't end up being as good as advertised and the offense sputters out of the gate, the fan base is going to turn on Brian Hartline overnight. Kevin, you're 100% right. And same goes for the defense. Whoever is taking over, there is going to be growing pains when you have guys who have started 3 years, both offensively and defensively. It is a fact of life. You could struggle in that first game against Texas, and the fan base might lose their mind, and they're going to blame the coordinators. They're not going to blame Ryan Day. He just won an Addy. They're going to blame the new coordinators. So they have to get it right, Sam, from the standpoint of we know that there's going to be growing pains, but what is the fan base going to do out of the gate? You think they're going to rip Ryan Day? I don't think they're going to do. I think they're going to point the finger right at the new defense and offensive coordinator and say Ryan Day made the wrong hires.
Yeah,
Ryan Day gets grace period.
I'm nervous. Yeah, the honeymoon period. I'm nervous with Hartline because I feel like if he was going to be able to kind of rise to this position that he would have done it by now. I mean, he's been around this program
8 years, right?
Yeah. I mean, with his background at Ohio State, with his background in the NFL, I just think that he would have gotten a job elsewhere if he so chose, or would have risen to the prominence here at Ohio State and been able to take the job. So I'm nervous in that, acknowledging the fact that he hasn't been able to do so yet leads me to believe there's a mental block or an issue there saying that maybe it's just not going to happen. I don't know. I just think there's going to be better candidates that, and always, I've said this forever. I don't think you cut your teeth at Ohio State. You cut your teeth elsewhere and then potentially come back. I just think there are more proven candidates out there, and albeit they are, external candidates, than letting Brian Hartline try to learn on the job here at Ohio State. And you're absolutely right too. If the offense takes a step back, they're going to blame Hartline.
And it's not like Ohio State. I think Brian Hartline's been an amazing recruiter. I thought he did a good job.
There's not a better recruiter in the country than Brian Hartline.
This is his best year of coaching because he finally taught the receivers how to block downfield. But let's not act like Zach wasn't pulling in first rounders when he was the wide receiver coach, right? So it's Ohio State has become wide receiver university, but that's because of Ohio State, not necessarily Brian Hartline. If Brian Hartline put an ultimatum out of, hey, I want to be play caller or I'm going to go elsewhere, if you're Ryan Day and you don't think he's ready, you got to be prepared to have him go elsewhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's also not forget too on November 30th
Is
against
it Hartline
Michigan.
or the university when it comes to recruiting?
I mean, they both. Don't get me wrong. The university itself and the program sells itself. But let's also not discount the fact that with the world of NIL now and the production that we've seen out of these recruits, it's not only the fact you have to get these guys in the room, you have to get them in the program, but you also have to coach them up and develop them to the point that they perform and are being drafted in the first and second round in the NFL. So as much as I say the program has a lot to do with it too, let's also not discount the fact that he's getting butts in seats and he's coaching these guys up like crazy.
He is. I'd agree. I just don't know, like you, if it was so easy and a no-brainer for him to be a offensive coordinator, then why isn't it not been done right away?
Absolutely. That's what makes me nervous.
If it was so easy, and, I know Scoop has reported it for 2-3 days right now, and they're doubling down. I don't know. Maybe if it was that easy, why even do an interview process? You just promote from within. And then why last year, remember, they got rid of Corey Dennis. They decided to go with Bill O'Brien. I get that. But when Bill O'Brien left, instead of going to the natural guy in-house, Brian Hartline, he reached out to a guy, his buddy, who was head coach of another football team. It could have been.
I also think there's
Brian Hartline.
I don't want to call it resentment, but that's because that's not what I think it is. But do you remember shortly after the Michigan game, in between, kind of the CFP coming out and in the last game of the regular season, do you remember Brian Hartline going and interviewing for the West Virginia position?
I do not, but I think
he went and interviewed for the West Virginia head football coaching position.
That's right. You're right. Yep.
Pair that up with the fact that the offensive game plan against Michigan didn't get his guys the ball. Do you think maybe, just maybe, that Brian Hartline was pissed off at the game plan against Michigan and maybe went and did that kind of, maybe it's for his career, but out of a little bit of the fact that he was pissed off that his guys, the guys that he had developed, the guys that he had coached up, that could have been on absolute display against the rival weren't utilized properly? Do you think that maybe, just maybe, he went and did that as a little warning shot to Ryan Day to say, listen, man, use my guys. Like, I'm here doing this. Let's put them on display.
No, but I like the way you're thinking.
I think he was pissed off and essentially did that to maybe put Brian on blast a little bit.
I think everybody probably pissed off after that.
And they should be. But again, I'm sure the relationship is fine. And I told you many times, I'm King Petty. I love it. I think that maybe put Ryan on blast a little bit, saying, listen, man, like, let's get our shit right.
Jim Knowles also said that he believes Penn State is close to a title. I think Penn State was close to a title last year. Penn State is always in the running for a national title. but they can't beat Ohio State and Michigan.
Think about this. Like, is there a program out there that is so close yet so far away than Penn State?
Buffalo Bills.
Solely because of the guy calling the shots?
Yeah. In the Buffalo Bills case, it's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
In this case, yes, it's James
He
Franklin.
is Baba Yaga.
Yeah. I've never looked at Penn State. Do I think Jim Knowles will improve Penn State's defense? I think they'll be about the same. I've never looked at Penn State as a problem defensively ever.
Right. That's my issues. Like, I understand you're getting a nominal upgrade there. Don't get me wrong, but that's not the side of the ball that needs the work.
Don't you think if you really wanted to damage Ohio State, this is complete fictitious conversation, I would worry if Penn State stole Chip Kelly. Then I would say
that would scare me a little bit more.
Then I'd say, okay, Penn State's onto something now. They stole Chip Kelly. Because I think Penn State has the athletes defensively, though, Sam. They have – everybody's coming back on that defense except for your top pass rusher.
Here's a question. What would scare you more? Chip Kelly going to be the OC at Penn State, or Brian Hartline going to be the OC at Penn State? And here's why. What position group offensively does Penn State consistently year in, year out struggle with the most?
Wide receivers, and they do recruit guys, 4-star guys. They just can't effing develop them.
I think Brian Hartline would make me pee a little bit down my leg.
Yeah.
Because not only do you lose him here in the wide receiver room and his ability to recruit, but he's going to a rival on the side of the ball that needs it the most with the position group that needs it the most. Yeah, I probably should stop putting that out there because we know James Franklin probably watches this podcast, but that would terrify me a little bit.
Yeah, but who's going to call the plays, though?
And that's fair.
To me, Chip is more dangerous because it's the more of the play calling aspect.
Yeah.
Because even with Brian Hartline, let's say Brian Hartline's at Penn State, is he going to out-recruit Ohio State? I don't think he is.
Maybe, maybe not. I know there's plenty of guys out there that and he's obviously proven he can develop some. And to a degree, Penn State's getting these guys. They're getting talented guys, four-star guys. Like, I just think that his expertise with the wide receiver room would pay dividends big time. And I honestly want to stop talking about it because I don't want to put it out in the universe anymore.
All right, I'll give you 3 in order. Bigger loss if Penn State took him. Chip Kelly, Brian Hartline, Jim Knowles third. I think you're on to something. I would worry more about Hartline leaving than I would Jim Knowles, right? When we know Jim Knowles' reality. I'm just saying, though, I'd rather have Jim Knowles take over that defense than Brian Hartline go and take over that offense, because I just don't it's Jim Knowles improved this defense, but it was also a group of guys playing with each other for a long period of time. So you can question whether it was Jim Knowles or guys just gelling. And then you add, in my opinion, the best defensive back in the country in Caleb Downs. Who was it? Was it the existing players or was it Jim Knowles? I tend to think it was the existing players making Jim Knowles look good. Caleb Downs blowing up that play at the end, making Jim Knowles. Players make coaches really, really good.
Yeah, I think
these players made Jim Knowles look really good.
Out of those 3 at threat level, I'm going Hartline, Kelly, Knowles.
Yeah, no wrong answer. By the way, and we'll do more of this Buckeye offensive coordinator as we go on. 2 real quick things we wrap up, Sam. Greg Dole of the Indianapolis Star is a dope. He wrote an article today that the Colts, he says, who says no? The Colts trading Anthony Richardson for Myles Garrett. I wouldn't even pick up the phone, Greg.
And like who else? Because
who says no?
Who says yes?
Exactly. The Colts.
They've been trying to compare in the NFL. Like what kind of trade in the NFL would you compare to the Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis trade?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good one. That would be an apt comparison.
Oh, I think that would be worse than, at least Anthony Davis is a all-star player. Anthony Richardson's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. That'd be like trading Luka for like a bench guy. Yeah, Anthony Richardson, Sam, the Colts even said they're going to bring in competition for Anthony Richardson. He is
What'd you say his name? Greg Doyle? Is that his name?
Greg Doyle. Sam, he can't even complete like 50% of his passes.
Greg should lose his journalism license.
He's the creepy guy that said that weird thing to Caitlin Clark and got
banned. Really?
Yes. Remember that reporter?
Yes.
And then Mike Greenberg's producer came out yesterday and said Minnesota should trade Justin Jefferson for Myles Garrett, who says no. Minnesota says no all day long. Myles Garrett is a 4-3 defensive end. Minnesota plays a 3-4. That would be a disaster. Yeah. Minnesota had that guy, Donnell Hunter. Now he's a step below Myles Garrett, but Donnell Hunter, look at his stats. He was getting 17 sacks a year. He's not as good as Myles Garrett, but they had that guy, and they let him walk. Who says no? Minnesota says no.
Yeah, don't ask who says no. Who says yes?
Yeah. And I'm not ripping Myles Garrett. I'm just saying Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, and Sam Darnold were like looked magnificent with a Justin Jefferson on their team. He makes receivers better. Or quarterbacks better. There's not too many receivers in this game that makes quarterbacks better. Usually it's the quarterback making receivers better. Trust me. Kirk Cousins was a pile of trash this year. And Sam Darnold was getting sacked by ghosts. You'll see the true Sam Darnold when he leaves Minnesota. You will see Sam Darnold be a turd again. He'll make the money, good for him, but he'll be a turd. Trust me on that. Yeah,
lose their journalism license.
These trade ideas are ridiculous.
Stupid.
But Myles Garrett's going to get what he wants. He wants to get paid. He wants the guaranteed money. There's no guaranteed money left. He wants to get paid. The Browns aren't in a position to pay him. Browns got to trade him.
Yeah, you got to do what's best for the franchise. And again, don't compound a mistake in the past with further mistakes going forward.
Tomorrow, let's get into Zach Wawinski. I think the Jackets are in trouble. They lost last night.
Starting to drop like flies. And that was a bad loss last night. I don't care.
Really bad loss because Buffalo's a bad team. That was a rough. That's one of those where if you look at the turning point of the season, you can look at that Dallas game and all the injuries and go, yep, that game derailed the season. You know, our top two scorers get hurt in that game. And then Zach Wawinski day to day, who knows what that means? Maybe he's back tomorrow night on Thursday. Jimmy Buffett night, by the way.
Is it really? Margaritaville night?
Yeah, I have the shirt. I should have wore it. I'm going to give it to my kid once. And he likes Hawaiian shirts. It's like Hawaiian shirt, Margaritaville Blue Jacket shirt.
I'm not sure if I'm going to go jersey on Saturday night or maybe throw on the Shorzy jersey, maybe a little hoodie action. Who knows? Maybe I do the OVE hoodie.
Oh, there you go.
I left it on I don't know if you saw. I left it on my kitchen table last night. The cat was all about it. Soft, man.
Getting a little pussy. But I look at that game last night, Sam, and I just said, "Oh boy,
can't lose that game."
No,
I know it's on the road. I know it's the last game of a 4-game road trip, but man, after Saturday, you get 2 weeks off, so you got to win that game.
And we got to talk about Mike DeWine tomorrow and his idea to fund Cleveland Browns Stadium, and I hate everything about it.
Yeah, anytime Magoo gets an idea, you should be concerned.
Yeah, especially with some of the things in it. Like, you should be happy if you're a Browns fan and go, oh, wow, Mike DeWine has a plan to fund our stadium. But if you're a Blue Jacket or Bengals fan, you should be super pissed. Because he is now trying to decide. I'll come up with a committee and they decide where the money goes. So, in other words, whoever is greasing their palm is going to get the tax dollars.
Hey, man, if anybody knows about greasing palms, it's Mike DeWine.
First Energy Mike, baby.
Yep.
He knows, career politician. That entire family, folks, I don't care if you're a Republican or not. This is a scumball. And I say this on the air on QFM 96. DeWine is afraid to come on my show. He is afraid. He is afraid of us. Because
he is a pipsqueak dickhead.
He is. He absolutely is. Look at the First Energy scandal. Look at a family who are career politicians where they have built their wealth by being politicians. His kid is now a Supreme Court justice in Ohio. His daughter ran for office. They are what's wrong with the political system, where you can be millionaires for running for office and use your power to get your palms greased.
Not to mention the medical and pharmaceutical money he was receiving in 2020 and 2021.
Oh, he is dirty as hell. And he also hired someone to blow out my back window. I'm convinced on my Tesla. I ripped DeWine on the air one day, and the next thing you know, my window got blown out.
Oh,
it was DeWine operatives.
That's funny.
It was DeWine operatives. I'm convinced. We'll talk about that tomorrow. We got a lot of stuff going on. We didn't even touch the sheet.
Yeah, we're just kind of free flowing, baby.
We do. I love it. Appreciate you, everybody. Subscribe, like, follow, share. Remember, tomorrow's wrestling. War for You. Did you see? You probably didn't see it. Monday Night Raw on Netflix.
Mm-mm.
They couldn't keep the stream up.
Really?
It was a disaster.
That's not good.
It was sputtering in the main event. It just for 2.5 hours. It's not as bad as the Tyson Paul fight. Not that bad, but it was bad. It was glitchy. Let's just say.
I saw that. Even though the internet said that they couldn't find terms for an agreement, you got a little Alexa Bliss back in the mix.
5 years. She's lovely.
She's from Hilliard, right?
I know she's been in studio.
Friend of the pod used to date her.
Really?
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to put his name out there. I don't know if he wants that info out. But
was he a former roommate of yours?
No,
because that dude dated everybody.
Yeah, it was not him.
Dude, we went to a Blue Jacket again. Can I say his name?
Who? My roommate?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, Gordy Gronkowski, Gronk's brother. Gordy's a good dude. And we went out a couple times. Gordy can drink so much, I tapped out like before midnight both times. And so Gordy, we're watching the game, and Gordy tells us that he hooked up with one of the Ice Girls. And I said to him, BS, you did not. And he goes, oh, I did. Watch this. And he texts this girl and tells him where we're at, right? And he goes,
I was at that game with you.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm telling the story.
Yeah.
You know the story. So we were there, and I also think a gentleman who runs the NIL was with us too.
I remember seeing him that night as well.
You're right. I think he was sitting with us. And so all of a sudden the Ice Girls come out, and the girl is skating, and then
looks
waves
right at us and waves
right at us and waves to Gronk. God bless that dude. He is the best. He is like a true. I'm telling you, I would tell you if people are pile of craps. Gordy Gronkowski is a cool dude.
So,
and you know,
I will say this.
Sam was, how long was you roommates with him?
4 years, maybe?
Yeah.
He just had some back surgery done. He said he's doing well. But what I will tell you this is what you guys see with Gronks, they're all great guys. Like all of the 5 brothers in the family, they're great people. What you see kind of on the media is maybe a little bit embellished, but those guys do, when they go hard, they go hard.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I was in my prime and I tapped out.
Yeah, that's
shots, dancing. I mean, he knows how to party.
Trying to keep up with a 6'7" Polish guy with drinking, like good luck.
Yeah, you guys played baseball together, right? In college?
Yeah, we played against each other.
Oh, against each other.
Yep.
Where did he play?
He went to Jacksonville, JU, and I went to Belmont. We were in the same conference.
You know, Jerry's kid graduated from Belmont.
Yeah, we were talking about that last night. I have met that son before,
Nick,
but I guess I didn't realize he went to Belmont and is now working at XM in Nashville.
Jerry's kid, Jerry, I would do the show with. His oldest is like a war hero. He lived in a cave. He was a what is the top Marine MARSOC?
Oh, He was a special Marine.
Yeah, he lived in a cave for like 9 months eating goat. Like seriously. Like legit. He did 3 tours, 2 in I think Afghanistan and 1 in Iraq or something like that. But like his last one, he lived in a cave, special forces, like lived in a cave. Dude's a hero. Nick Elliott, hero. Nick never pays for anything when we went down to Nashville the last 2 times, and Nick goes out with us. I never let him pay. Dude's a hero. Sacrifice, I mean, a year at a time in Afghanistan, Iraq, 3 tours, dude. That's a hero, man.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, we're back tomorrow. Appreciate you. Stands 8.
Well, of course. I mean, there's nothing better than being American. So, I mean, this is the greatest feeling. If you don't love it, leave it. USA, #1.